Dr. Vivian Chen built her career on distance. Her office was soundproof, her life was sterile, and her golden rule was simple: never feel a thing. She was the best because she was granite. Then the Alpha King, Jaxon, was forced onto her couch. A man of raw, beautiful violence with molten gold eyes that demanded obedience. He was her patient, her adversary, and her most dangerous obsession. He didn't just need healing. He needed the truth she was terrified to give. And when his hands finally shattered her control, their forbidden passion was captured, broadcast, by the enemy who sought to destroy him. You are the most dangerous thing that has ever happened to me, Vivian, because you saw the shame I buried. She lost her license, her reputation, and her safe, sterile life, all for one unguarded moment of honesty with the king she was mandated to betray. How far would you fall to save the only man who ever truly saw you? Chapter 1. The Sanctuary of Beige. Dr. Vivian Chen smoothed the non-existent wrinkle from the lapel of her perfectly tailored cream blazer. The air in her office, the polished, soundproof counseling office, smelled faintly of lemon and old money. Sterile. Safe. "And how does that make you feel, Mark?" Vivian asked, her voice a low, precise instrument. Mark, a client and a prominent hedge fund manager, was unraveling across from her. He was furious because his wife had spent a fortune on a single piece of jewelry. Yet his hands were shaking, not with anger but with profound sadness. Vivian saw it. She always did. Internal monologue. In that moment, she realized the chaotic mess of his marriage was far easier to process than the quiet, beige void of her own life. She thrived on helping others manage their emotional explosions. It kept her safe from her own implosion. "I feel disrespected, Doctor," Mark said, his jaw tight. "Disrespect often masks deeper hurt, Mark. Tell me about the hurt." She leaned forward, just a fraction, a studied movement that signaled trust. She would guide him, analyze him, and send him home whole. She never let the chaos touch her. That's why she was the best. As the silence stretched, Vivian thought of the empty wine glass waiting in her minimalist apartment. Her ex-husband, Robert, still called weekly. Not out of love, but obligation. He still saw her as the tightly wound machine who valued control over passion, a caricature she had meticulously maintained. Meanwhile, Mark confessed his fear of inadequacy, the real root of his anger. Vivian offered a perfectly measured response, wrapping his sprawling fear into a neat, digestible theory. Crisis contained. "You've given me a lot to think about, Doctor," Mark said, standing. Vivian gave him a practiced, professional smile. She didn't know what scared her more, Mark's raw, exposed pain, or the thought of confronting her own guarded heart. Still, she collected her notes. Her heart rate was steady. This was her rhythm. This was her control. She had successfully navigated another session without feeling a thing. Before she could move toward the door, her phone vibrated with an unfamiliar, restricted number. She hesitated. Professional distance meant ignoring unknown calls, but then the door to her office burst open. Not with a distraught patient, but with 3 massive, silent men in custom black suits. They were not clients. They were guards. And the sterile calm of her sanctuary was about to be obliterated. Chapter 2. The Mandate and the Monster. The air thickened, smelling now of expensive leather and something primal, like rain-soaked stone and ozone. The lead guard, a man with eyes like polished flint, spoke without preamble. "Dr. Chen, you are required." His voice was flat, carrying the absolute weight of a royal decree. Vivian stood, her composure a shield. Her heart skipped a beat, but her expression remained perfectly neutral. "Required by whom and for what purpose? I have an ethical duty to confidentiality, and my schedule is booked 6 weeks out." This wasn't a standard referral. "The Alpha King Jaxon, it is a mandatory classified service. Your compliance is non-negotiable." The guard didn't request. He stated a fact of the world she did not inhabit. "Alpha King?" Vivian scoffed, a tiny, disbelieving sound. With sarcasm. "Sir, I specialize in marriage and family counseling. I treat humans, not mythical royalty. Send me a referral explaining the legal and clinical context, and I will consider it, because professional integrity demands it." The guard simply laid a thick, sealed document on her glass desk. The seal was an intricate carving of a snarling wolf's head. In the span of a breath, Vivian's world tilted. The document wasn't a referral. It was an official decree from the regent, Liesa. The king suffered a political trauma. He is unstable. He requires assessment. The fee is generous. You start immediately. "Unstable?" Vivian repeated, the word hanging like a threat. "And if I refuse?" The guard met her gaze. The moment their eyes locked, Vivian saw not just a threat, but a profound, almost desperate fear. Refusal is considered an act of political destabilization. It will not only jeopardize your license, but your immediate freedom and safety. More importantly, your mandated commitment to confidentiality is already under a royal oath. You are bound, Doctor. Vivian realized the truth. She was being handed a gilded cage. Her reputation for unwavering integrity made her the perfect, unassailable witness to Jax's purported madness. Liesa didn't want her to heal him. She wanted her to certify him broken. "Very well," Vivian said, grabbing her professional briefcase. "But I will require my usual clinical space, soundproof, private, and subject to my rules. When I am treating the patient, I am the authority. Do you understand?" The guard nodded, a flicker of something that might have been respect crossing his eyes. Without another word, he gestured to the door. Vivian walked out of her sterile, safe world and into a world of wolves and war. She felt a cold thrill. She was no longer running from her chaos. She was walking straight toward the highest concentration of it. Chapter 3. The Shadowed Quarters. What followed was a dizzying journey through the city to the ancestral royal residence, a massive stone edifice that seemed to absorb the very light from the afternoon sky. The atmosphere shifted from the familiar world of traffic and finance to one of oppressive, feudal secrecy. They led Vivian deep into the shadowed royal wing. As the wind shifted outside the high, arrow-slit windows, the silence inside roared. Every footstep echoed on marble floors. The place felt like a beautiful gold-leafed prison. Vivian's instinct surged. This wasn't a place for healing. It was a compound under siege. She noted the hidden cameras, the heavily armed guards who watched her with predatory intensity, the palpable mistrust hanging in the air. Her chest ached with the sudden, sharp realization of her true danger. A younger, nervous beta guard named Finn led her into the designated clinical space, a grand, high-ceilinged library that was cold and deeply impersonal. In that moment, Vivian pulled a small, portable sound recorder from her briefcase and placed it squarely on the ancient mahogany table. "Doctor, with respect, that isn't necessary," Finn whispered, casting a fearful glance at the door. "It is entirely necessary, Finn. My notes are only as valuable as their factual accuracy," Vivian stated, setting up 2 chairs facing each other. "Now where is the patient?" Before the words left her lips, a massive, dark figure filled the doorway. Alpha King Jax. He didn't walk in. He lumbered in, radiating raw power and contained violence. His eyes, the color of molten gold, were rimmed with sleepless rage. The expensive fabric of his shirt seemed barely capable of containing the coiled muscle beneath. He was furious, reduced to a patient, forced to bare his soul to a human. With every heartbeat, Vivian felt the heat of his gaze. It wasn't predatory, not exactly, but possessive. A king assessing a new piece of property. Yet she refused to let her gaze drop. Jax's voice was a low, gravelly sound, accustomed to instant obedience. "You are the shrink, Dr. Chen." "I am Dr. Chen. And you are my patient, Jaxon. Please take a seat." She gestured to the chair, her expression perfectly calm, her voice measured. She did not bow. She did not flinch. She did not call him king. His world tilted. The air between them was thick with tension, a palpable force field of opposing wills, his massive entitlement versus her absolute, unshakable control. The true battle of the fangs of honesty was about to begin. Chapter 4. The first offensive Alpha King Jax did not take the seat Vivian offered. He remained standing, a colossal shadow in the oversized room, his golden eyes blazing with contempt. The silence was thick, charged with the scent of his barely controlled rage and the ozone of his raw shifter power. "You speak to me as if I am one of your mewling human clients," Jax growled, his voice vibrating with authority. Low, rumbling. "I am a king. I have just survived a coup. I do not need a 40-year-old divorcee to hold my hand and ask me about my feelings. I need my throne." Her voice trembled internally, but on the outside, Vivian was granite. She felt it, clear as day, the desperate need to retreat, but her unwavering emotional honesty took over. She met his stare. "I see a patient who suffered a severe emotional blow," Vivian countered, adjusting the microphone on her sound recorder. "In this room, your title is irrelevant, your power is null, and your wealth is negligible. You are Jaxon. I am Dr. Chen, and we begin with the basic truth." As the world narrowed to the space between their chairs, Jax let out a short, dangerous laugh that held no humor. He was furious. She had stripped him of the only weapon he understood: authority. "The truth is, I was betrayed," Jax said, finally slamming into the chair, the leather groaning in protest. "The truth is, I should have seen it. The truth is, my beta, my loved one, died protecting me, and now I feel nothing. I feel like a hollow weapon." "You feel profound guilt and self-loathing masked by rage," Vivian corrected gently, writing on her pad. "The king is trained to be ruthless, but the man is afraid of failure." Before either could speak again, Jax launched forward, his hands slamming onto the table, eyes widening with predatory intensity. "You will not dissect me. You will not use your little theories to prove I am unfit. You will write your report, and you will certify me well, or I will ensure your professional life is a smoldering ruin." "Is that a threat, Jaxon?" Vivian asked, her tone entirely clinical. Completely flat. As if pulled by a string, Jax pulled back, his powerful chest heaving. The calmness of her response was more unsettling than any resistance. She was not intimidated. She was analyzing him. "It is a fact," he corrected, bitterness coating his words. "And here is your first lesson, Doctor. In my world, vulnerability is not a pathway to connection. It is a point of assassination." "Perhaps," Vivian said, meeting his challenge with quiet intensity. "But in my world, control without courage is stagnation. I won't write a lie, Jaxon, because my integrity is the only thing I have left." The tension broke slightly as Jax glared, realizing his threats were useless. He looked not just angry, but deeply, tragically tired. This was the fear, the profound need for connection that Vivian had come to see. Her professional objective was successful. She had established control over the clinical space. But then a deeper, unprofessional curiosity ignited in her, a forbidden attraction to the sheer, volatile force of his personality. The session ended, not with resolution, but with a palpable, adversarial promise of much more to come. Chapter 5. Unpacking the Scars. Come morning, the second session began, then the third, then the fourth. The routine solidified. Jax arrived late, radiating menace, and Vivian began, unruffled, speaking of trauma response, grief cycles, and the language of denial. The space between them burned during these sessions. Jax spoke only in guarded platitudes or snarled dismissals. As the silence roared after a particularly pointed question, Jax started talking, not about the coup itself, but about the victim. "Her name was Alara," Jax said, staring at the floor, his voice raw, deep, subdued. "She was my beta, my closest confidant. My cousin, Liisa, was the one who lured her into the trap. The coup didn't just strip me of power, it involved a betrayal so absolute it poisoned everything. As the truth unraveled, Vivian noticed two things: Jax's immense guilt over Alara's death, and the way he completely avoided mentioning anything romantic about her. A missing piece of the story. "You view her death as proof of your failure to control the situation," Vivian summarized, her tone even. "You see your grief as a weakness that prevented you from being king, rather than a natural response to profound loss." In the quiet that followed, Jax didn't erupt. Instead, he simply looked at Vivian, an honest, unguarded moment in his eyes. "You see things no one else does, Doctor. Not my enemies, not my guards, not even me." Meanwhile, outside the session, the shadowed royal wing tightened its grip. Finn, the nervous guard, left Vivian a cryptic note. "Always use the sound machine. The walls have ears." Vivian understood. The recording of the session, the forced intimacy of therapy, was not only for Jax's healing, it was for her protection. The constant surveillance forced a strange magnetic closeness between her and Jax inside the room. It was the one place they were both truly honest and consequently truly alone together. As the tension of their situation, coupled with the emotional honesty, was slowly but surely eroding Vivian's careful control. Her misbelief, control equals safety again, was starting to crack. The most dangerous man in the kingdom was also the only man who had ever truly seen her. Chapter 6. The Unacceptable Gift. The counseling deepened, reaching the thorny subject of Jax's future role. He needed to prepare for the assembly. The official motion Liesa was preparing to declare him permanently unfit. "I need your report, Doctor," Jax stated, not asking, but demanding. This was the first significant test. He placed a velvet-lined box on the table. She didn't know what scared her more: the gold ring gleaming inside, a ridiculous bribe that proved he still saw her as corruptible, or the desperate, haunted look in his eyes. "Sign the report stating I am fit. Say my trauma is managed. Take the gift." He leaned in, his scent, spicy wood smoke and something wild, filling her senses. The space between them burned. "You want me to lie?" Vivian said, picking up the box, the velvet surprisingly soft beneath her fingers. "I want you to be pragmatic. Lying is the language of the court. We skip the emotional weakness. You maintain your reputation, and I get my power back. You win, I win." "And what about Alara?" Vivian asked, her voice quiet. Soft, penetrating. "What about the guilt that keeps you hollow? You think taking your throne back without confronting that will solve anything? No, Jaxon, it will only turn you back into the ruthless machine that allowed the coup to happen in the first place." As if the world narrowed, Jax's face hardened. He snatched the box back. "You push too far, Doctor. You risk everything." "You risk everything by remaining a coward," Vivian replied, standing up. That's why she was his only hope. She was the only person who would risk everything to tell him the truth. But then the guard Finn burst into the room, fear etched onto his face. "Dr. Chen, His Majesty, Liesa is moving the assembly vote up. She's citing the instability of his medical quarters." "She's moving up the timetable because she knows you're getting stronger," Vivian immediately deduced, turning to Jax, the clinical detachment gone, replaced by urgent strategic fire. "Your counseling is now a political weapon. We need to move the sessions to a place she can't easily monitor, not just for your sake, but for mine." Without another word, Jax nodded, his eyes locked on her face. He didn't thank her. He simply moved, his kingly competence returning. "We move to the Citadel's inner library. It's reinforced. No matter how hard she tries, Liesa won't access that space." Vivian gathered her recorder. She was no longer just a therapist. She was an ally, risking her life in the heart of a political war. And just like that, everything changed. Chapter 7. The Inner Sanctum. The Citadel's inner library was not shadowed. It was imposing. Its walls were carved mahogany, lined floor to ceiling with forgotten scrolls. The air smelled of old paper and dust. This new space felt less like a prison and more like a tomb of secrets, the perfect place for the forced intimacy of therapy. Their sessions moved from battlegrounds to fragile shared bunkers. Jax was still resistant, but the change in setting had forged a nascent sense of shared urgency between them. "This is ridiculous," Jax muttered, running a hand through his dark hair. "I should be hunting Liisa down, not reading fairy tales about emotional stability." "You are learning to use a different weapon, Jaxon," Vivian countered, adjusting her glasses. "One that doesn't rely on brute force. That is far more dangerous to a political opponent." Jax stared at a portrait of a stern-faced queen on the wall. In the quiet that followed, he began to speak about his past, not just as a king, but as a young heir. The pressure, the isolation, the constant need for strength. His chest ached visibly when he spoke about his father's expectations. This shared vulnerability was a stark and captivating picture. Meanwhile, outside the session, Finn, the young guard, approached Vivian while she waited for her transportation. He was pale and nervous, clutching a thick leather envelope. "Dr. Chen, take this," Finn whispered, his eyes darting to the corridor's end. Low, rapid. "It's a copy of the original transfer document for the king's assets. Liisa is preparing a formal public address tomorrow, citing financial incompetence during his recovery." "Why are you risking this?" Vivian asked, accepting the envelope. "Liisa is a monster," Finn replied, the words shaking on his tongue. "She is cruel. Jax, he is fair. He just forgot how to be human. I believe in the true king, not the regent." As the bond pulsed with shared danger, Vivian realized the truth. The therapy wasn't just about saving Jax. It was about protecting those, like Finn, who were staking their lives on his return. She had the evidence, the first concrete piece of evidence to fight back. Chapter 8. The Cost of Control. The next session was heavy with unspoken stakes. Vivian focused on the internal rot of guilt. "We need to talk about Alara," Vivian stated, bypassing the usual pleasantries. "Not the political consequence of her death, but the personal weight." Jax flinched, a flicker of pain crossing his face before he masked it with ice. He was furious. She always pushed past his defenses. With every heartbeat, the air grew colder. "I told you," Jax ground out. "She was my beta. She saved me." "Was she also your lover?" Vivian asked gently, watching his reaction. The moment their eyes locked, the veneer of the Alpha King shattered. He closed his eyes, his breathing ragged. "Yes, she was my mate, my intended consort. We kept it a secret because a weak claim to the throne meant my enemies would target her first." He choked on the words. "Alara died because I was cowardly enough to hide her instead of protecting her openly. I traded love for safety." The pain radiating from him was a tangible heat. He had used control, the same control Vivian prized, and it had resulted in catastrophe. This was the dark mirror of her own internal flaw. "You didn't trade love for safety, Jaxon," Vivian said, her voice now thick with unexpected empathy. Her professional mask was dangerously thin. "You traded honesty for illusion. That guilt is not a political wound. It is the courage you never allowed yourself to use." Instead of his usual rage, Jax simply looked at her, his golden eyes raw. "And you, Doctor? What did you trade for your fortress of control?" Her world tilted. He had turned her own analytical scalpel on her, and it cut deep. She felt it, clear as day, the crack in her wall widening. She saw her empty beige office, her quiet life, her safe, boring divorce. "That is irrelevant to your treatment," she managed, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "In this room, nothing is irrelevant," Jax corrected, a dark, knowing glint in his eyes. "You save me from the darkness, Doctor, but who saves you from the light?" Just like that, the tables had turned. The space between them burned with a new, forbidden kind of tension. One born not of animosity, but of shared, brutal honesty. Chapter 9. The Public Strike. The safety of the Citadel's inner library was instantly shattered by a blaring television screen placed in the corner. Liesa appeared on the broadcast, polished and chillingly composed. "It is a tragedy," Liesa purred, eyes cold and calculating. "But a king must be sound. And sadly, sources close to the king confirm his recent mandatory therapeutic isolation has only highlighted his profound incapacity to rule." Jax lunged toward the screen, letting out a low primal gruel that vibrated through the floor. The king's primal rage returned. "They're using my vulnerability against me," he roared, pacing the tight space like a caged animal. Without thinking, Vivian moved from her chair, her hand going instinctively to his massive arm. "Stop. That rage is exactly what she wants the public to see. She is not attacking your mind. She is attacking your financial legitimacy. Finn gave me this." Vivian shoved the envelope containing the asset transfer evidence into his hand. Fire bloomed beneath her skin from the unexpected physical contact. "This proves she is moving your private assets. We use your instability as cover. We can leak this evidence because the financial threat will rally the loyal houses far faster than defending your mental health. We use her weapon against her." The moment their eyes locked, it wasn't the therapist and the patient. It was two strategists, two isolated people who shared a single enemy. Jax's rage subsided, replaced by a calculating, molten focus. "You are not a counselor, Doctor," Jax said, his voice low, his stare intense. "You are a warrior. I am someone who believes in the power of truth, Jaxon, and your throne deserves a king who isn't afraid to fight with every part of himself, not just the ruthless ones." Jax committed. "The assembly is in 3 days. We prepare the leak now, and you, Doctor, will be at my side. Your truth is our shield." Vivian nodded, sealing her fate and the rapidly blurring line between professional obligation and revolutionary loyalty. Jax's voice was low, gravelly, as he mapped out the plan. He moved with a coiled, purposeful energy that was captivating. "We leak the asset documentation to the traditionalist houses," Jax instructed, leaning over the large oak table. "It proves financial malfeasance, not just political weakness. Finn will deliver the packets at midnight." As the world narrowed to the flickering lamplight and the hushed tones of their conspiracy, Vivian felt a reckless, vital energy. This was where she belonged, in the eye of the storm. Between one breath and the next, their heads were practically touching. Jax's hand, large and calloused, brushed her elbow as he pointed to a property. "You have a mind like steel, Doctor," Jax murmured, his gaze lifting from the map to her eyes. Hushed admiration. "You have a loyalty that will save you, Jaxon," Vivian returned, her voice barely a whisper. In that moment, their connection transcended therapy and strategy. It was a bond forged in shared threat. What followed was a strategic triumph. Come morning, the news was in turmoil. Liesa's public address was overshadowed by the scandal of her own financial overreach. The assembly was forced to delay its vote, buying Jax crucial time. She didn't know what scared her more, the political danger they had invited, or the realization that the intoxicating, forbidden feelings she had for her patient had eclipsed her professional duty. The mission was no longer about helping him heal. It was about protecting their shared future. Chapter 10. The line burns down. That night, the Citadel felt quiet, suspended in the aftermath of the political bomb. The air thickened with anticipation. Vivian found Jax in the library. He was staring into the darkness, his shoulders tense with exhaustion. "They want my head, Doctor," Jax said, his back to her. "And now they want yours." Vivian stepped closer, no longer afraid of his volatility. "We are in this together, Jaxon. Your strength is honesty, remember? And I will not lie about the danger." Jax turned quickly, his golden eyes filled with a desperate animal need. He didn't speak. He simply reached out, his powerful hands cupping her face, his thumb tracing the sharp line of her jaw. His voice trembled when he finally spoke, raw and husky. "You are the most dangerous thing that has ever happened to me, Vivian, because you saw the shame I buried, the failure. I saw the man I want to save," she murmured, allowing herself to be consumed by the sudden, fierce intensity. Breathy surrender. The space between them burned. He lowered his head. The moment their eyes locked, it was a tacit, passionate surrender from both. Their passionate consummation was the inevitable result of their forced honesty and shared peril. But then, just as the passionate moment faded, a small, polished silver pin caught Vivian's eye. It was pinned carelessly to the curtain, a tiny, concealed surveillance device. Liesa was listening, not just to their strategy, but to their intimacy. This was the devastating realization. Liesa now had irrefutable proof of a prohibited relationship, weaponizing Vivian's broken professional code. Jax's momentary vulnerability had exposed Vivian entirely. Without warning, Jax snatched the silver pin, crushing it in his fist. His features shifted into a mask of cold, terrifying rage. A growl rose in his throat, primal and deafening. "Liesa," he snarled. "She didn't care about the documents. She wanted this. Proof of sexual instability with her court-appointed doctor. She needed leverage to disqualify my findings," Vivian realized, her professional mind kicking back in even as her body trembled. "She wanted me to certify you broken, and now she can certify me compromised." Jax grabbed Vivian's arm, his grip firm and urgent. "You are no longer safe here. She can use this to have you arrested, silenced, or worse. You broke a sacred trust. I have to go back to my office. I need to get my notes, my files," Vivian insisted. "If I can secure my original, untainted therapy notes—" "No, we will not risk it," Jax cut her off sharply. "Finn will retrieve what he can. You leave now." Jax kissed her fiercely, quickly, a promise wrapped in a desperate goodbye. Urgent, hard. "Go to your apartment. Wait for Finn. Do not contact me. Do not trust anyone but him. This is an order, Vivian. The only one I have ever given you." The tension broke only when Jax shoved her into the back of an unmarked vehicle. He was standing alone in the shadows, already a king under the siege of his own vulnerability. Chapter 11, The Choice of Loyalty. The unmarked car sped through the city. Her heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear the guard's hushed instructions. She was a renowned therapist, fleeing like a criminal. She had spent a lifetime building a fortress of control, only for it to be utterly dismantled by a single moment of genuine, forbidden vulnerability. Instead of driving straight to her minimalist apartment, her safe, sterile world, Vivian directed the guard to a secure data center downtown. Her belief that control equals safety was a lie. True safety was found in the unwavering loyalty Jax had just shown her. "I need to upload a confidential package of notes," Vivian stated, her voice steady now, resolute. "Dr. Chen, the king ordered you straight home. The king needs more than protection. He needs a voice Liesa can't silence. My original, untainted notes from the first few sessions prove Liesa pressured me to declare him unfit before the coup. This proves her political maneuvering, not his instability." Vivian made the definitive commitment. She uploaded the digital package, timing its release to a media contact she trusted, a point of no return. She had voluntarily thrown her entire career onto the fire to protect the man she loved. Come morning, the counterstrike was brutal. She saw it on the newsfeed. The headline was a blazing, damning smear. "Royal Counselor exposed. Dr. Vivian Chen's unethical relationship with King Jax under investigation for political collusion." The screen showed grainy, magnified images, not of the kiss, thankfully, but of the intimate moment, meticulously edited to look like a salacious betrayal. Liesa hadn't used the footage just to discredit her. She had used it to humiliate her. Her license was instantly suspended. Her accounts were frozen. Liesa didn't need to arrest her. She just needed to silence her voice by destroying her credibility. Every carefully constructed wall of professional excellence was now reduced to ash. She felt it, clear as day, the sharp, agonizing pain of total exposure. The tension broke with a gasp. Meanwhile, at the royal residence, Jax was now entirely isolated. He had lost his only honest anchor. Liesa had timed the leak perfectly, to hit him just hours before the rescheduled assembly to vote on his removal. As the silence stretched, Vivian received a coded message from Finn. They are moving the vote to tonight. Jax is cornered. The regent has won. Chapter 12. The Dark Night of the Soul. Vivian stood alone in her apartment. Her fortress now felt like an empty tomb. She saw not the esteemed doctor, but a woman stripped bare. She had chased feeling, honesty, and passion. And what was the result? Total professional annihilation. Control equals safety. Genuine vulnerability is a pathway to destruction and pain. She picked up the phone, intending to call Robert, to begin the process of quiet defeat. She would retreat. Rebuild her walls. Never, ever trust raw, messy emotion again. But then, she looked down at her hand. A tiny, almost imperceptible silver thread of Jax's hair was clinging to the cream cuff of her blazer, a remnant of the passionate moment. With a single glance, the despair broke, replaced by a sudden, fierce flash of ultimate loyalty. She couldn't save her reputation, but she could still save the king. Her lowest point became her point of clarity. Her core strength, unwavering emotional honesty, demanded she find a public platform. Meanwhile, at the Citadel, Alpha King Jax was truly alone. Liesa had ordered the immediate withdrawal of his remaining loyal guards. Liesa swept into the room. She was impeccable, radiating the triumphant chill of a predator who has cornered her prey. "My dear cousin," Liesa purred, her smile chilling. "The assembly is waiting. Your counselor has been thoroughly discredited. You see, Jaxon, vulnerability always brings destruction." Jax didn't move. He felt the crushing weight of his shame. The death of Alara, the betrayal, and now the destruction of Vivian. He had repeated the same fatal mistake. "You traded honesty for illusion," Liesa continued, echoing Vivian's own words, twisting them into a final psychological blow. "Sign this, Jaxon. Do not drag the line any further." Jax took the pen, his hand shaking, ready to surrender to the overwhelming weight of failure and shame. He was ready to give up. But then, just as his hand lowered toward the paper, the faintest sound reached his ears, a frantic, almost imperceptible scratching sound at the base of the locked library door. Subtle scrape building tension. A tiny spark of hope. The ultimate destruction was postponed. But for how long? Chapter 13. The Unbroken Truth. She felt it, clear as day, the overwhelming need to act. Vivian didn't waste time on the ruins of her reputation. Her core strength, unwavering emotional honesty, demanded a public fight. She remembered a habit, a redundant backup. A meticulously organized, coded digital diary stored on an untraceable drive hidden inside a hollowed-out spine of an old, irrelevant textbook. The tension broke when her fingers grasped the drive. She accessed the file. Not a therapy note, but a simple journal entry. A brief, factual account of a highly pressured visit from Liesa, who had explicitly offered a vast sum to Vivian in exchange for preemptively declaring Jax unfit. This was the final piece of evidence. It was dated before Vivian and Jax's relationship started, neutralizing the shame. Her voice trembled internally with fierce satisfaction. She had to deliver it in person, under the glare of the assembly. She needed to find an unassailable piece of truth. She reached for her old secure burner phone. Finn would be waiting. Back in the library, Jax was saved by the frantic sound at the door. Finn was gone. All that remained was a small, crudely drawn symbol scratched into the wood, a stylized wolf paw. The old pack signal, "Hold fast, help is in motion." Jax took a deep, steadying breath. He stalled Liesa by demanding a highly public signing at the assembly, citing historical precedent, buying a critical hour. Meanwhile, Vivian met Finn in a shadowed, neutral corner of the city. Finn, pale and terrified, confirmed the imminent assembly vote. "Laisa has locked down all official entrances," Finn whispered, his eyes darting nervously. "Quick, Lo. The only way in is through the old service tunnels beneath the citadel. They are unmonitored. I need access to the highest gallery overlooking the assembly chamber," Vivian instructed, her voice low and decisive. Finn nodded, handing her a small, rough sketch and a simple guard's cloak. "Jax bought you time. He refused to sign here. He's waiting for you, Doctor." She felt it, clear as day, the profound, ultimate loyalty Jax had demonstrated. She couldn't fail him. The final plan crystallized. Vivian would race the clock through the abandoned tunnels to reach the gallery. The space between them burned with the promise of reunion and retribution. Chapter 14. The Vulnerable King. Vivian's instincts surged as she emerged from the service tunnels, shedding the rough guard's cloak in the dark upper gallery of the assembly hall. Below, the mood was solemn, charged with tension. Laisa stood near the central dais, forcing a somber Jax toward the abdication scroll. Before Laisa could finish, a clear, measured voice cut through the silence. "I object." Every head snapped toward the gallery. Vivian stood exposed, her presence a public scandal, but her demeanor one of unwavering emotional honesty. "Dr. Chen, you are disqualified," Laisa shrieked, her composed facade finally cracking. "Guards, Caesar." Vivian addressed the council, her voice ringing with the clarity of absolute truth. "I am discredited because I violated my professional code for the sake of the man I love. But my truth preceded my love. I possess evidence, dated before my relationship with Jaxon began, proving Regent Laisa attempted to bribe me to declare the king unfit purely for political gain." Vivian activated the small projector. The coded journal entry, revealing Laisa's bribery attempt, flashed onto the assembly wall. The council erupted. Jax rose from the table. He did not issue a command or snarl a threat. He looked up at Vivian, a raw, vulnerable look of profound respect and devotion. "I will not sign," Jax declared, his voice cutting through the noise. "Regent Laisa has poisoned my court, preying on my genuine trauma and the honesty I sought in this woman's counsel. I stand here, not as the ruthless king of the past, but as a man who faced his guilt and faced his fear of failure. I am fit to lead because I now know the strength is found in self-acceptance, not just control." The loyalist counselors turned on Laisa, the political plot exposed and the internal flaw overcome. Jax's vulnerability became his salvation. Chapter 15. New Equilibrium. In the quiet that followed Laisa's enraged removal, the first order of business was Jax's formal public reinstatement. The atmosphere in the citadel was filled with exhausted relief. Jax found Vivian in a private antechamber. She was officially jobless, professionally ruined, and free. "They want to know what role you will take," Jax said, his voice soft, standing before her, not as king, but simply as Jaxon. "I have no role, Jaxon. My integrity demands I step away. My professional life is over because it was built on a wall of control that you, quite rightly, shattered." Vivian offered him a sincere, small smile. The space between them burned, a safe, warm fire now. "Your work here is not finished, Doctor," Jax insisted. "You healed the king because you dared to treat the man. You are my most trusted advisor, my conscience." He paused, looking deeply into her eyes. "My consort. Not in secret this time, but openly, truthfully. I want you at my side to remind me and my realm that the ultimate power of vulnerability is true strength." Vivian accepted. She had traded her measured, sterile existence for an unpredictable, dangerous life of purpose and love. She had lost the war for control but won the battle for her soul. 2 years later, the shadowed royal wing had been renovated. It was now the open chamber, filled with sunlight, comfortable chairs, and living plants. Vivian, wearing a simple flowing dress, was packing a box. Inside were her old professional notes, her psychology texts, and the framed photograph of her beige-controlled office. As the sky darkened, Jax entered. He sat beside her, watching her sift through the past. "Is that regret?" he asked, gently touching the photo of her old office. "No, Jaxon," Vivian murmured, leaning her head on his shoulder. "That is a monument to a lie I used to believe. I thought safety was found in walls and distance. You taught me safety is found right here, in the open." He sighed contentedly. "My people respect me now, not for my ruthlessness, but for my transparency. They trust me because they know I have a partner who will challenge me with the truth every single day." The king had found his queen, not in a political arrangement, but in a forced therapy session. They found their true power and connection only when they were willing to be completely vulnerable. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to this channel for more stories, and also don't forget to hit the like button.